Welcome back, my little psychic babies, to
What to Watch Now,
where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And in today's episode, we are talking about Supernatural Season 1, Episode 14, Nightmare. Their whole fucking life's a nightmare, am I right? I don't know why, but this one just makes me want to go, Sammy boy, the nightmares are calling you. With your premonitions, it's demons that ensue. I guess you can tell I'm in a bit of a weird mood. And it's like one of my favorite days. I love me spring, summer, all that jazz. By the way, yesterday was the spring equinox. Woo! Spring has started. Very exciting. And as much as I love me a classic sunny day, I also love when it's dark and cloudy, when the rain's doing its thing like it is now, and you just kind of feel cozy. Turn off all the false lights in your house. Let it feel just like kind of gray, you know what I mean? Sit by a window and watch your favorite either like sci-fi fantasy or horror themed show. I highly recommend today would be a good Stranger Things day. Catch up. Third season's coming out soon. And that trailer looked amazing. But that's a side note. So anyways, today we're continuing our story with Supernatural. And it is a very dark one, unfortunately. Like I said, even though I'm saying like, oh, today's like a fun day, watch something fun, it's cozy, and it's not what you anticipate. This is when Supernatural hits some emotional chords that are a little too realistic in life. I don't think they should shy away from these subjects, but yeah, it's dark. So we get our setup as usual. A man goes into a garage after work, most likely, and mysteriously the engine turns back on, the garage door shuts behind him, and he's kind of being gassed into his car because the windows and the doors lock, but by themselves, I might add. So it's already setting something weird and supernatural going on. But the cool kind of, I guess it's bait and switch or red herring, whatever you would call it, is that this has not actually happened yet. That this is a dream, a nightmare to Sam. But when he tells Dean, like, let's go find this person, let's go check it out, he says it feels different. It's not just some random thing. You know, I have a hunch that this is the thing. And, you know, Dean makes some fairly great, good logic. I cannot think of grammar and words today. That he says, well, you talk about having your premonitions at the house with the one when they were at their family home. Sorry about that. I had to just pause the podcast for a second. I left my heater on, so if you heard a buzzing sound before, it should be gone now. Anyways, so he was like, that was our family home. That was, our mom, your girlfriend. These things make sense. You're connected to them. Why would you at all be having visions in any way towards anything else? But when Sam checks out, turns out it is a real place. This is a real name. This is not a fictional thing he made it up in his head, so it gives more gravity to the situation of what they're up against. They're like, drive quickly. And I would definitely say, like, the theme of this episode is denial. The denial is strong with this one when it comes to Dean. Dean denial. Denial Dean. He has been given evidence, but he's pushing it away more and more. And I just want you to think of this, like, take this food for thought. Why is he so afraid of this being a possibility? Why is he so against it? He sees monsters, ghosts, the impossible happen all the time. Why would he not get down with or understand that it could be possible? His brother, for whatever reason, has, like, latent psychic powers. You know what I mean? So they go check it out, but unfortunately they were too late. The person was real. They did die in the way that Sam had his vision, and everyone's kind of crowded around the block. Sam poses a good point to Dean while Dean tries to comfort him and be like, it's not your fault, whatever. But Sam's like, listen, what is the point of me having these powers, being shown their deaths, if it isn't my job then to save them? Like, he starts to kind of put that on himself, which at times it's like, God damn it, what is with the Winchester boys and having to be martyrs all the time? I mean, let's put it this way. Somehow this show makes it very likable. While you're watching this, you're like, what's not likable about someone caring and sweet and having consideration for strangers' deaths and so on and so forth? Let me put it to you this way. If you are familiar with Lost, I hope you are, because otherwise this isn't going to make a lot of sense. But there's a character named Jack. And Jack is an annoying martyr. He constantly makes everything about him, makes it like, I've got to save them. I've got to do it. And it gets really annoying as the series on because it kind of feels unnecessary that it's like, of course Jax has to fix everything. And that actually happens a lot in movies and TV shows. People might not even be aware of it, but they are tired of that idea and find the characters kind of whiny and annoying. But for me, Sam and Dean never come across that way. It does feel genuine. You understand their point of view and motivation. And I don't know, something about it is like, you don't blame them, but you do really sympathize with them. You're like, no, it's okay. You want to comfort them, is what I'm saying. So, well done, writers. Yay! We should have a segment called, like, claps for writers. Because I'm just acknowledging of how difficult that would be. So anyways, they decide, okay, well, we got to get close to this family. How are we going to talk to them? And this is something I love going over time and time again. Always pay note to who they use as, like, their false identities to get the information they do and the ways they go about doing it. It's really interesting and fun. I think they do their most creative and dynamic and multitude of different outfits during the first couple seasons while it's fresh. And honestly, this is like one thing I also want you to take note when it comes to Supernatural in the first season, especially if you're like a first time watcher / listener listening to this podcast. This is when they have morals. Now, they do always try as the seasons go along, no spoils here, they always try to do the right thing for the benefit of humanity or whatever victims in trouble. But in the beginning, for them to wear a priest's outfit, this is what happens, they put on a priest outfit, it's a smart idea. The grieving family would be more willing to talk to someone that can, who's used to hearing people's emotions and problems and giving them advice in the community. But Sam even notes, like, this is pretty low for us. This is, like, pretty fucked up. There's some sanctity there, so to speak. But, like, by season, even 6, they're like, yep, just fuck it, we're priests now. Whatever. Like, it's just funny to take these moments of being like, oh yeah, you guys thought you were dark? It's gonna get a whole lot darker. This is nothing. This is just a little tiny cupcake of the problems you're about to have. Or things that in comparison make this not seem like a big deal. So, they go in there, they're talking to the priest, and they're talking to the family. And the brother-in-law is a little bit of a dick, but honestly, he just seems like a normal person grieving overall. I think he just did a good job of giving you vibes right away, of not really trusting what he had to say. And they talk to the mom, and even she admits, like, it doesn't seem like the father to commit suicide, and they kind of secretly know he didn't commit suicide. So they get the confirmation. They go through the house. There's no EVPs. They even, after they leave the house, do some research, and there's no, like, Indian burial ground or some terrible death from the past. So there technically shouldn't be anything in any record showing that this house is somehow haunted or anything negative to this family. So maybe he really did just commit suicide and Sam saw it incorrectly. I don't know. We're putting out theories at this point. Also, I want you to pay attention to Max Miller when Sam goes and talks to the son. One of the best things about Supernatural, along with, it's an awesome show, it's well written, it's interesting, it's unique, great actors, all that great jazz. But man, are some of their side actors so memorable. Some you only meet for one episode, and considering, I think there's like 14 seasons, there's 13 on Netflix, but there's 14 in general so far. Considering there's 14 seasons, any Supernatural fan that's maybe seen like every episode once if you casually showed a side character to them, they'd immediately recognize them. Not every single one of them, but there's a good amount of them every season that just stand out to you and are memorable. In fact, this show has so many great side characters that some of those characters either are reoccurring every few seasons or they become like kind of a staple part of the cast, which is a little hint for any of you first time listeners / watchers. So, they meet the kid. So I'm totally sorry. I'm blanking. Anyways, the side character, Max Miller. He's played by Brendan Fletcher, and to me, he stands out so much. I love his weird, dark, sunken, red, bloodshot eyes. How he kind of looks like he's 30, but he's playing like a 16-year-old. You can tell even then when he's grieving, he seems angry, but not in a I'm going to attack you way, but like he's clearly pushing down something. He's an incredible actor. He's giving like an Oscar award-winning emotional performance in this episode, and that's one of the reasons why you should definitely check this one out, just to see some amazing acting. But, like, at this time, it's, like, the WB, so it's like, damn, Brendan, bring in your A game all the time. You might know him from such movies as Air Bud. I'm just kidding. I mean, he really was in Air Bud. Apparently that's, like, on his IMDb, but he was also, like, in The Irreverent with, like, Leonardo DiCaprio and iZombie, Arrow, a bunch of other bigger Hollywood movies. He's clearly other people recognize his amazing talent, so he's awesome. Anyways, so they leave the situation not really having any answers. And like we know in Supernatural, 3 people gotta die before anything gets solved. And Sam has then a premonition about Roger Miller, the man he met in the beginning of the funeral, the brother-in-law. So he sees him, and again, it tricks you. You feel like you're watching a scene and not being a part of a dream. But we get one of those, like, OG kills. Not to be dark, because I'm not someone who's, like, into gore, but every now and then I think we can all appreciate a crazy, like example, Kill Bill, someone's, like, head being sliced in half with a katana, or, in this moment, a head being chopped off. Them both being head-related is not related, but the Roger Miller's head, he looks up because he thinks he hears something, and the window slams down on him, decapitating his head. Holy shit, it's one of those, whoa, that was cool. I know I sound like a 14-year-old boy, but I think we get each other. So, they run over trying to prevent the situation, and they don't, again, successfully make it happen. And when it happens, unfortunately, it's shocking for them to experience with a giant blood splatter and, a head coming off. And they end up being like, okay, well, we gotta get out of here. We couldn't save him. But clearly some more people are potentially in trouble because these type of things come in large quantities until we stop it. So they start to throw around some ideas and guesses of what it could be, because technically they said they didn't see anything haunted in the house or on the land, but potentially maybe there's some sort of spirit of some sort attached to the families. Sometimes that happens once in a while, and Sam threw out a good idea of a banshee. And I wanted to mention this because I actually have another podcast called Mystery Storytime Podcast with my partner. We talk about ghost stories, demon stories, paranormal stories. So if you like Supernatural, this is kind of like right up your alley. But we actually recently talked about banshees. And my boyfriend informed me on the podcast, he's my partner on there, that banshees have an interesting background lore. You can learn more detail about that. They derive specifically from Ireland, but there's a lot of kind of theories up in the air if they only attach themselves to people in Ireland or of Irish descent. Some people say it's only haunting 5 specific families, the 5 predominant families. Some say you have to have an O apostrophe or a Mac in front of your name to be attached. And the way banshees work is they are like humans. They have feelings. Not every single one of them is the same or goes about what they do the same way. So some banshees are kind of more like a forewarning of your death or other people's deaths around you. And they will come the first night. You will be the only one able to hear their screams. They're trying to almost communicate to you. The second night, if you're like in a house with a family, everyone around you will be able to hear it. And the third, it's supposed to be said that you or the person that you're trying to save or whatever will not make it to that last scream. Or sometimes banshees will scream at you to death until you die. And or you want to kill yourself because of how horrible the screams are. So just food for thought out there. We know that this has nothing to relate to banshees, but if you're interested in banshees, we talk all about that on that episode. Anyways, so they go forward and they're like, okay, well, we need to interview the son again, get all the information. And Dean seems like he could at any moment potentially be a bully, and I think this is what a lot of people are drawn to his character. It's like he could so easily be the bully or tough guy, the mean little kid from It, but he actually is incredibly tender and really gives a shit about the little guy. So it's kind of a wonderful, unlikely type of personality in an unusual shell. And he can tell that he's smart. Dean's really smart, in fact. It's I don't know if it's like I think the fans for sure know, but like as you get to see the series, Dean's got a lot more going on. Sam's not the only intelligent one. So Dean realizes something's wrong with the son. He clearly is holding something back. He even points out not every family is like happy and perfect. Like nobody is. Something's wrong here. They go back to where they used to live. Apparently they had moved not too long ago. And they find out from a neighbor that unfortunately the son Max actually lived in a pretty bad abusive household. They point out that the dad was the worst, but when the dad wasn't abusing him, and I'm talking like broken arms, some bad shit, like, I mean, the neighbors themselves even tried to help and call, what is it called? Social services multiple times, and they eventually moved as a family to get away from all the drama and clearly still be terrible. But they said the father was abusive. Again, this is a very dark episode. The brother-in-law, or the brother of the father, also was abusive to him, which is like, what the fuck? And the worst part was the mom would just kind of stare and do nothing about the situation. So, pretty realistic and pretty awful. One of the darker and sadder subjects about life that honestly should be prevented. So they realize, okay, clearly Max wasn't telling the truth. And Sam at this moment has a premonition seeing that Max potentially is going to hurt his mother. And they realize it kind of all makes sense. And by the way, when they see this premonition, Max is like holding a knife to her eye. It's another great like horror movie moment that's really scary and is very triggering. And they realize, okay, so clearly he has some sort of psychic powers. Have no idea why at this point, but this makes sense of why everyone else died and why I sensed there was someone else there. He was using his psychic abilities just out of range. And it honestly makes sense why he killed them. Like, let's be real here. Like, this was not a great family. It was pretty fucked up. And I really like Sam's perspective, because some people are so quick to just be like, oh, you're the monster, write someone off. And to be real, like, I'm not sitting here condoning murdering people for your problems. In fact, don't do that. I'm just putting that out there. Don't do that. Or violence or anything like that. But just to be clear, it won't solve anything. But you can understand why he was brought to that point or that choice to be made. And they go to confront him. Dean wants to kill him. And understandably so, he even says, if we bring him to the police, what am I going to say? Like, lock up the kid, he's murdering people with his brain. It doesn't really make any sense. So Dean is not trying to be heartless. He kind of understands the gravity of the situation and is willing to do it. Which is kind of dark because, I mean, I guess maybe Dean is able to compartmentalize the murdering because he sees, even though it's a human, it is a form of a monster. And they believe that all supernatural shit is negative at this point in time. And Sam, on the other hand, is like, no way. We understand what he went through. Like, we're going to talk to him. Dean, unfortunately, brings a gun just as backup. And when they go to confront him, they have a tense conversation. And like I said, this actor is so fucking amazing that Normally, the way Supernatural works is episodes will get kind of divvied up. You can feel every section is about anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes of a scene or information being given to you. So the big showdown is really only the last, like, maybe 7 minutes of the show. This show, half of it, more than half of it, nearly like 55%, maybe 60% of this show is just the big finale. Because, and this is what I think, the actor blew it out of the park so much. Most of it's just highlighting how amazing he is, because he sells you on the suspense and everything. And just a friendly reminder to anyone who doesn't act or can't even get their brain in that perspective, these people have to pretend things are moving around them and not burst into fucking laughter. I mean, just good job, actors. Good job, Brendan or Max. So they almost get him alone, pulled away from the mother to talk to him privately. But when Max sees the gun in Dean's back pocket, he pulls the gun from him. It's kind of all revealed. Yep, he has, what is it called? Not telekinesis. When you can lift stuff, telepathy, I guess it's called. Whatever it is, he can lift stuff with his mind. And he holds the boys at gunpoint, and he has the mom slammed into the wall. Sam is able to negotiate with them and be like, listen, can you please, and by the way, the one thing I love is, like, everything seems calm and peaceful for one moment. You think the boys are going to make it, but when he sees that gun and he pulls it out of Dean's pocket, it's like, shit just pops off the rest of the episode. Sam is able to negotiate Dean taking the mom upstairs to safety, and that just him are going to talk, and because he has the quote-unquote gun, he has all the power, so, like, just calm down, let's chat it out. And as they're talking and having this conversation, it's really sad because Sam is not thoughtless at all. I think he handled it the best he could, but he didn't know he was going to be opening, like, floodgates. Because when he's like, I know you're angry about the past, and the boy goes, the past? Talk about last week. And he pulls up his shirt, and it's so sad. He's got bruises all over his stomach, and the father's been hitting him in areas that are not visible. So he's able to hide it easier, and nothing's changed. He even says old habits die hard, which, again, I don't really know how to talk about this stuff because I'm trying to skim over it because it makes me very emotional to know that's, like, a real problem that people face, and it's very upsetting for me. I don't like it. So he's expressing these emotions, and as time goes on and they're kind of like figuring out what triggered all of this, he says that my dad always looked at me and hated me. I could see do you know what it's like to have the hate in being looking at you into your eyes? And Sam's like, actually, you're losing me there. No. Because at one point you kind of feel like he might even bond with him because of his own personal dad issues. I think he even mentions that to Dean, just being like, I know what the bullshit he's been through. But then quickly he's like, oh, never mind. We did have different experiences. But Max ends up revealing that his dad was crazy and was a drunk because of his mother's death. That woman in the kitchen is his stepmother. And that his mother, he was blamed for his mother's death. And when he explains the mother's death, she was pinned to the ceiling and she lit on fire. Sound familiar? Huh? Say it with me, guys. Mrs. Mary Winchester died the same way. If we somehow, by some miracle, linked up saying that at the same time, get out of my head, you little psychic baby. So they quickly realize, like, Sam starts chomping at the bit because I think his comfort zone is research. Like, it's not that he's against ghost fighting and he can for sure throw a punch, can he now? And he's willing to do the hard work, but I think he feels happiest in a world full of unknown questions and answers and a lot of lack of conclusion. In fact, that's actually very familiar in real life. A lot of people who talk about paranormal events who have experienced them, many people will say you don't really get a conclusion most of the time, unfortunately. So he feels comfortable being able to open a new book, and forge deeper down a path in a way he normally can't when he's just purely, EVPs, asking around. He kind of has to just wait for more people to die, and it's very frustrating. And so he starts, I'm just giving you a perspective of where Sam's at. And so he starts getting really excited in Sam and with Max, and it basically being like, me too. I was also, this happened to my mom. This is so weird. I think we're connected. He explains his own psychic abilities, and they start bonding, and it gets really, really weird. Because as they're talking about it, Sam realizes, I think my visions are getting stronger because you were nearby. I'm realizing that this weird way our mother died, clearly we are connected. I don't know why, but maybe with our abilities and with the situation with our mothers, maybe somehow we were chosen. And Max asks what I think is a pretty scary question. Chosen for what? Now, that doesn't even really get a conclusive, answer, because what ends up happening is they end up having a disagreement about how things are going to end. Sam says, listen, I don't know, but we're hunting him, the guy who killed both of our mothers. But you have to let us go so that we can find a conclusion and answer. And this makes a lot of sense, because it doesn't really feel like it's coming from like, oh yeah, we have this thing we want to do, let us go. He's relating to the boys, like, this person killed your mother, and then this is what caused all the abuse and sorrow in your life. This is what trickled down to your dad being triggered and then went down the hill. I could give you some sort of conclusion, resolve, if we get him. But you have to let us go so we can kind of almost, in a weird way, proverbially end everything. Another thing I just want to mention, too, is I can understand why he gets upset, shoves Sam in the closet, and puts a big, kind of dresser in front of it to block the door when he goes after them. He realizes, and he says, admits out of fear, and this is something that's so well written, it's kind of scary. I think I kind of heard this type of thing from victims before, where you're so afraid that it's not enough to just run away from this person that's abusive. You feel that you can't get peace until they are gone, until they're dead. And that's why he feels it's not okay to just leave the mother, not without doing something to her. And not even just because he's afraid she's going to come after her, because she's not really the problem. I think he's taking it out on her because she was a pedestrian or civilian. She could have, or what is it, witness? She could have done something about it, and she didn't, which is just as worse. Which, by the way, again, not condoning any of this violence or any of that shit. Not cool, not okay. But I really agree with that. I have a personal problem with friends from my past who are like, well, blank wasn't mad to me, and when they see something happen to you, they just don't say anything. I'm like, you're basically signing off that that's okay. Excuses aside. So he goes upstairs, Max, and when he goes upstairs, his plan is to shoot, and Dean's going to step in the way, and he's going to die. Sam sees this as a premonition. And out of fear, he somehow psychically moves the dresser from the front thing. Remember, he did not have the powers Max did. In fact, Max does not have the powers Sam has. Max can't, see the future and what's going to happen. But now Sam had, a little taste of it. And he runs upstairs, and thankfully Dean does not die. And they try to talk Max out of the whole, killing thing, which is really scary and sad. And when he talks to him, he unfortunately is he's able to say this isn't going to solve anything, and Max agrees and decides the best way to finish everything is to finish himself again. Suicide is so sad. I've had some friends unfortunately pass away that way, so this is all I can really say on the subject. So if any of these things affect you, I'm really sorry. Again, very dark today. But moving past that, we're going to have to move past that. Unfortunately, that is how it ended. The mom, or if you remember her, Aunt Hilda from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she did a great job. She's got a lot of range. She ends up covering for the boys, lying about what happens so that they can continue doing their work. And she's thankful she's alive. But I loved the way she kind of responded to the whole thing. I liked that she... she wasn't okay. Not just because of all the murder she had personally seen or experienced or, secondhand or whatever. But, this is really sad. Her whole family's dead. And, I think it probably really hurt her whole life. It didn't seem like she was okay with Max being abused. I think she did love him as her own son, and that was really sad that they experienced that. Well, they go back to the hotel, and Sam and Dean start kind of talking about like what they had experienced and so on and so forth. And this is important to note. One of the big parts about this season is Sam's relationship to his dad and Dean's kind of in the middle dealing with everybody's emotions. So Sam goes back and forth a lot, and I always talk about this time and time again. How do you make that not feel tiring? For me, I think Supernatural writers do an incredible job of making it feel realistic. When you have complicated feelings towards someone in your past, or especially someone significant like one of your parents or family members or whatever, you don't just like get over it. It's something that you grapple with. Why me? Why did we disagree? Wanting to agree, all that type of stuff. So I don't blame Sam's back and forth for like wanting to find his dad and having answers and loving him, and then the next second feeling frustrated and resentful that he's being brought into this life again. And in this moment, Sam has a nice conversation with Dean, just being like, I'm very thankful for Dad. I can't wait to look for him, and I don't really want to complain about it in that way because, I know I feel frustrated about our past, but the reality is, like, he could have easily picked up a bottle like Max's dad and they would have had a way worse childhood. There are way worse childhoods, which, like, by the way, like, I'm not shitting on Sam for this at all, but like, why do people go, oh, at least I'm not that? I'm like, is that really great to compare your life? That's kind of shitty. But whatever, that's the circumstance he's going through. You can understand. He gets a bit of perspective about the world. And he just says he's very thankful that after Mom died, like, the dad really did love him and tried to do the best he could. So it's really nice to hear there's a bit of bonding and closeness to all of them. And then that's when Sam reveals to Dean, and this is important, that he moved the cabinet with his mind. It was serious. Dean has kind of an interesting response because he has this cute moment where he holds up a spoon and he goes, bend this. And it's like a funny little moment. And he's like, oh, come on. Like, I don't know why. Sam's admitting. He's like, I'm just telling you it happened, but I have no idea how to control this. I could totally be reading in between the lines when it comes to this, but it kind of felt like Sam was expressing this a little bit out of fear, being like, okay, so I have psychic abilities. Look how this kid turned out. Is that how I'm going to turn out? Am I going to become bitter? Am I going to use it in a negative way? I don't know. I'm a little afraid of what's happening to me. I don't fully understand it. And Dean has this cute, heartwarming moment. He says, you have something Max never had. And he's like, oh, what? Like our dad that wasn't as shitty? And he goes, no, me. And again, one of the, like, a common theme basically will never get tired of hearing, even after all these seasons, is the idea that they have each other. They really, honestly, Frozen is quaking at the closeness that Sam and Dean portray. It doesn't feel corny or stupid. You believe it and you understand it. And no matter how much they might find other human connections, no one will understand them the way they do. Not just because of their childhood, but the complexities of what they are unable to express to other people. Just being able, like, I find sometimes the people we're closest to are the same people we can, like, freak out on and know that they'll get it or won't leave, and they can see all the different sides to you, and then, because to create the puzzle of who we are, you have to have all those perspectives. It's how you react to both the good and the bad shit that really defines you. So that's a really cute kind of moment, and he even kind of finishes up the subject, maybe a little too quickly, I might add, by saying, hey, let's go to Vegas. We could use it for crabs, make it for a joke, but make sure you did not turn off your little Netflix or whatever you're watching it on, because in that moment, we get a telling emotional side to Dean. He stares at the camera in kind of a worried, scared way, almost like he's going to hunt Sam. And obviously he's not going to go hunt him. I don't think he has any animosity towards his brother. But it shows, like, he is not letting on to how he truly feels. And seems like it's going to be serious. Because if I was going through something... So, I'm just giving an example because they've known each other all their life. I'll give my boyfriend an example. If I had some problem I was going through and I was new to it, I don't know why it's happening, I'm scared. And okay, we're gonna make up a weird, gross story. Weird, gross metaphor. Get ready. Imagine I was having a crazy period, like every day. Insane. Floodgates. Blood everywhere. And I'm freaking out. And somewhere along the lines, he starts to feel like it's gross, right? If that was his perspective, I would feel alone. I would feel betrayed by this person I've known for so long. And it would start to create a lot of tension. You kind of need support at that time more than ever. Thank God my boyfriend's not like that. He is amazing. But just seeing a little inkling of that idea that it's under the surface, knowing this family, it's like, honey, you may have all your secrets, but no one fucking keeps them because everything comes to the surface eventually. So, like I said, another awesome episode of Supernatural, but pretty serious and whatever, but a lot of important plot points and plot developments were revealed. Especially the whole thing of, like, what the fuck is with the demon and these, like, psychic kids? So, yeah. Definitely food for thought. I'm so excited to continue talking about this series. Sorry it slowed down a little bit. I just want to add, I will continue to be doing this a couple episodes a week, so keep looking forward to that. I can't wait to go through every single episode. If you liked this podcast, please subscribe or give a 5-star review on iTunes, whatever platform you're listening to. Either way, I love you in the most platonic way possible. Talk to you in the next episode. Bye!